Two-stroke bikes came into top-level racing in the early 1970s. Before that, most bikes were big, heavy four-strokes, but then everything changed. Two-strokes were lighter, they were simpler, and they were cheaper to build, but the real magic was in the power. These tiny engines made insane horsepower, way more than people expected. The power-to-weight ratio was wild. At first, people didn't believe they could compete, but companies like Suzuki and Yamaha proved them wrong. They built fast, aggressive machines that started winning, and once the trophies started coming, everyone else had to catch up. By the late 1970s, almost every team in the 500cc class had switched to two-strokes. They were harder to control, but they were faster. That was the beginning of the two-stroke era, an era that would shape MotoGP for the next 30 years. In the 1980s and 90s, two-strokes ruled everything. This was their golden era. The bikes were fast, violent, and terrifying to ride, but the best riders in the world figured them out. Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki were all in. They built bikes that were lean, loud, and packed with raw power. The Honda NSR 500, Yamaha YZR 500, and Suzuki RGV 500, these became legends. Riders like Kenny Roberts, Freddie Spencer, Wayne Rainey, Kevin Schwantz, Mick Doohan, they didn't just ride these bikes, they tamed them. They wrestled these beasts around every corner. No traction control, no electronics, just pure skill and guts. Honda had the NSR 500, a V4 two-stroke beast with over 180 horsepower. Yamaha brought the YZR 500, another V4, known for its brutal power and sharp handling. Suzuki had the RGV 500, lighter, twitchy, but deadly in the right hands. Kawasaki tried with the KR 500, a unique square 4 engine. Cagiva came in with fire too. Their V4 C593 almost won it all. Once the two-strokes took over in the 70s, the championship scene completely changed. Barry Sheene came in and made history, fast and fearless. He gave Suzuki its first world titles and became a legend in the process. Then came Kenny Roberts from the US. This guy didn't just win, he brought a whole new style. He rode with the rear tire sliding, backing it in like a dirt tracker. It was wild, but it worked, and it made Yamaha unbeatable for a while. In the 80s, things got even more intense. Honda jumped in with all their power, and Freddie Spencer did something no one else has ever done. He won both the 250cc and 500cc championships in the same year. One man, two classes, total domination.
It looks like win the 500cc and the 250cc, which is pretty selfish of you, I would have thought. Why did you decide to be greedy and go for both? Or is that the normal thing? You must go for both.
Well, I've always liked to have new challenges and to try new things. And I won the 500 World Championship 2 years ago. And this year, Han and I both decided that we would try to do something that everybody felt was impossible to do.
Why take it up? I mean, lots of people take up riding the motorbike. When did you, or when did anybody decide that you had the talent to go further, that you were just a bit better than the ordinary guy who rides the motorbike? Did you go racing very early on?
Well, you could say that. A lot of people ask me, why do you race? I said, well, at 6 years old, I really didn't have much of a choice.
But they put you on a bike at 6?
Yeah.
Family were keen
on
it,
well, family. My dad said, get out there and ride. I said, sure, Dad. But, no, I started riding when I was 6 years old, and then when I was about 16, I turned professional, and that's when I really decided that I wanted to do it as a living. Yeah. And I felt I had the talent, and I've been very fortunate.
The title fights were brutal. Wayne Gardner, Eddie Lawson, Randy Mamola, every year was a war. But then came the golden rivalry, Wayne Rainey versus Kevin Schwantz. Two Americans, two different styles, both pushing way past the edge. Their battles in the early 90s were pure chaos, aggressive, risky, and unforgettable.
First rider's reaction is to try to hang on as long as possible. At least that's my reaction. I also, depending on the situation, of course, if you lose the back end, it's pretty much going to be a high side. You're pretty much going to get hurt. If you low side, your tendency of getting hurt is a lot less to happen because you're so close to the ground already. When you low side, the bike just seems to slide out from underneath you, and you just keep your eyes open for what you're going to hit, or for any other riders around you, maybe nearby.
Everyone says you're supposed to stay relaxed and just go limp, but I can't do that. When I fall off, it's just like, oh shit. I panic like anybody else, but if you can, you try to keep your eyes open, see what you're going to hit, try to get stopped or try to get turned around. I've done that a few times and actually spun myself around so I wouldn't hit a certain way, but a lot of times you just get flicked up in the air and you just take your chances when you hit.
Each situation is a lot different. Depends on how you get off the bike most of all. If you get off the bike off the low side, if you just lose the front and slide down, you've got pretty good control because you hit the ground, you're only falling about maybe a foot to the ground because the bike's already leaned over. You just try and hit the ground and try and get yourself stopped as quick as you can and try and not stand up or do anything silly while you're still moving. As far as getting off the other way on the high side, which is actually when the bike spins about halfway around and then throws you over the saddle, a lot of it just depends on how you land as to what you can do.
Then from Australia came Mick Doohan. After a massive injury, most thought he was done, but he came back stronger, and from 1994 to 1998, he ruled the world. 5 straight titles on the Honda. No one could touch him.
It didn't really bother me if I was first in the first turn or I was 10th. I knew the race was 45 minutes, 50 minutes long. As long as I was at the front at the end, that was all that counted. I knew that I could be consistent, and that, I think, was my biggest strategy. A lot of guys can't do that, and that was, I think, the key to my success.
In a sport where accidents are just around the corner, Mick achieved success the hard way. A major crash at Assen in 1992 nearly ended his racing career.
I knew that with some of my injuries, perhaps I couldn't get back to the same level, but if I knew if I could get somewhere near it, then perhaps I could win again, and perhaps the dream of a world title would be a reality.
At the beginning of the 1994 season, Mick lined up at the grid more determined than ever. He clinched the first of 9 victories that season at the Malaysian Grand Prix.
When you get to that point of actually thinking that you can actually win a world championship, you're competing for a world championship, and then achieving it, I think that definitely that's the high point. But certainly there was plenty of high points all the way through the career, but achieving the first world championship is always a bonus.
At the Czech Republic Grand Prix, he finally sealed his first world championship and claimed his place in motorcycling history. Winning his second world title in 1995 at the Argentinian Grand Prix, Doohan continued to stand above all opposition.
I wouldn't think there was one guy I really had to beat. I had to beat everybody. So I had to work harder than these guys, mentally, physically. But it was also interesting not knowing who was going to be the challenge for next year. Every year there'd be a different challenger, it seemed.
And finally, a young Italian, Valentino Rossi. He brought style, speed, and that raw two-stroke fire. In 2001, he won the last ever 500cc world title. That was the end of the two-stroke era. After that, MotoGP moved to 4 strokes. But the legends, they were made in the smoke and madness of the 500s. 2001, the last dance of the 2 strokes. After that, the world changed, but the smoke, the sound, and the legends they created will never be forgotten.